What is going on, investors? Back again. Time to take a look at the weekly FAANG stock recap. Plus, we'll take a look at Microsoft and Tesla. Sorry about leaving Google out of the charts last week. We'll make sure we cover them today. Now, today was an interesting day on the stock market. Pretty big down day for the NASDAQ. All the other markets kind of rallied late in the day. Obviously, the huge news upsetting the markets was the President of the United States, along with the First Lady, tested positive for the virus. I see here he has a fever, some congestion, and a cough. Now, not necessarily a political show, but this is some pretty big news. Well, obviously, we're not hoping for this, but for anybody, but especially the president, if his condition deteriorates, that's certainly going to impact the elections here in just about 30 days. So we'll be keeping a close eye on this one. But again, if you're a long-term investor, even if Trump recovers and then is reelected, you're only looking at another 4 years. If you're holding for 25, even 30 years, it's a small blip in the radar. But these are some things that you want to keep in mind. Obviously, could create some buying opportunities as well. So we open it up with Facebook. The F in the FAANG today was down 2.5%. All these stocks, mainly NASDAQ stocks, were not performing very well today. The NASDAQ did not come back like the S&P and the Dow did. But for the week, Facebook actually had a nice week, up 6.8%. Now, the news for Facebook, along with Google and Twitter as well, is they are going to be headed back to Washington, D.C. to testify on a Senate panel for this Section 230. Now, this Section 230, don't necessarily want to get into it on this video, but to me, it's actually a bipartisan effort. Now, they both want different things. I think Republicans think they're being censored, and I think Democrats are more worried about like misinformation and maybe like bad actors like Russia or something like that posting things on these sites. But either way, I think all these sites are looking for more regulation down the road, depending on how the election shakes out in November. So we'll see what happens there. We'll keep a close eye on that. Now, Apple had a nice week. I actually swung trade Apple a little bit this week. It peaked up into the 116, 117. You could have bought it down here at the 112, 113 range, made a couple bucks. I'll do a swing trade video here in a few days. So up 8% here for Apple, but we see here down 3.24%. Not a lot of news out of Apple for the week. Now, Amazon had a rough day, down 3%, but again, for the last 5 days, we were actually up 6.67% for Amazon. Now, Pivotal Research actually raised their price target of Amazon all the way up to $4,500 based on their advertising business. Now, what's interesting is Amazon's ad business is when we report on earnings here in a few weeks on Amazon, is they don't actually separate that out. So you don't actually get to see the ad business per se, but eventually I think they will. And it is an exploding business for them, not necessarily from a revenue perspective, but from a profit perspective, or as they say here, EBIT margins here. So man, their advertising business, super profitable. And I think will drive Amazon's stock price going forward. Netflix, not a big week on the news, down 4.64%. The stock actually performed really nice this week, up 11.5%. Google, flat still, down 2.2%. I mean, I guess 4.5% for the week being up is not necessarily flat, but when you look at this chart, not up a whole lot. So Google, when we jump into the chart, will be an interesting one. Microsoft, same situation here, about 4.5%. Up for the week, but down 3% today. Really nice, strong down day for Microsoft. Be interesting when we jump into the chart on that one. Finally, Tesla, for the last 5 days, had a nice week, up 15.57%, but was down 7.38% today. Little bit of news on Tesla. So they did their Q3 deliveries. Those came in at 139,300 vehicles were delivered. They produced a total of 145,000 cars. And the street was expecting, in terms of deliveries, between 136 and 140. So they hit it right in the middle, actually the upper end of that range. So people are expecting a nice earnings report from Tesla here in a few weeks as well. Now, some interesting things, some fundamental stuff here. So Tesla cuts its Model 3 prices in China in a very highly anticipated move. Why are they cutting their price? Well, some efficiencies, and they have the Gigafactory and they're producing cars over there. But they're facing tons and tons of competition actually in China. We've actually gone over Li Auto and NIO and a couple other ones out there, but take a look at vehicle deliveries. This is Li Auto. I couldn't believe how fast these Chinese car companies are delivering vehicles that, appear to have similar specs as a Tesla and tend to be priced a little bit cheaper. We'll see how that holds up in the long run, but I think Tesla is going to be pressured in China, like a lot of manufacturing is, by other manufacturers there. They're going to be able to drive down price and then produce an equivalent product, at least in the Chinese market's eyes. I think Tesla's going to do really well on the high end. I think they're going to be like Apple. The high-end customer is going to buy an Apple phone in China. The rest are going to use, more domestic-made products. And I think the same thing with the Chinese market with cars. I think Tesla will dominate the high end, but I think these Chinese manufacturers are going to put a lot of pressure on Tesla's lower-end models, at least in the near term. Now, let's finally jump over to the charts, starting with Facebook. Facebook's right in a range. If you followed my series on this, back somewhere in here when we started bottoming out, this was about 2 weeks ago, I said, I think we're going to wave out. I think we're going to go sideways with these stocks. I think they pulled back to the range where they wanted to pull back. Now, obviously, if we get some more negative news on the president and maybe some other stuff, maybe that drives the market down further, but I actually would anticipate these stocks to wave out, and that's exactly what we're seeing here. Here's Facebook. It bottomed out here in the 247 range. It's come back up here, hit some resistance. Probably could put a resistance line right in here at 267. I think if you want to open up a position in Facebook, you're comfortable with the regulation and all the stuff happening with Facebook, I think right in that 255, 256 range, not too far from where the stock is trading today. Moving on to Apple, same thing. We hit up here, we waved down. I think now you can kind of swing trade this. When Apple comes down here to a lower end of the range, I don't necessarily think you need to come down all the way to the bottom end of this range, but maybe somewhere in this range, 108. I was picking this up in the 103, 104 range, and then kind of riding it up and selling. I'll do an update at some point on my swing trading video. I made a couple bucks swing trading Apple. Not something I normally do, but I think what's possible is we have this long-term trend line here that I'm hovering over here, this long upturn. And so I think we could do a full back test here. I think we could come all the way up to here, which would be in the 120 range. If it does it in the near future, if it waits a few weeks, it'll be mid 120s, 125. If we do a full back test, it'll be interesting what happens if Apple comes back to this long-term trend line. If it gets rejected, I think it comes back down pretty hard, maybe retesting these lows down here at the 104 range. If it breaks up above this long-term trend line, that would be extraordinarily bullish, especially if it closes and then makes another higher move. I think, boom, you could retest maybe not the all-time highs at 137, but I think easily in the 129, 130 range with Apple. Now, moving to Amazon, where we actually have been waving. It appears like almost Amazon has been waving. Now, its long-term trend line is here. We're a little further away from it than we are with Apple. And we see here, we came close to retesting this trend line, got rejected, came down here, came back. We didn't do a full back test, so that's not necessarily a good thing. We're making kind of a lower low here. If this stock retraces back down here to the $2,900 level, could be an interesting spot if you want to open a position in Amazon. You guys know my feelings about Amazon. I love Amazon, probably the stock I'm most bullish on, but it is also the stock I'm the most overweight on. So I would probably need a little bit deeper pullback since I'm already kind of overextended in terms of how many shares I own already, at least in a dollar amount. So 2,800 would be where I'd be really excited. We'd be at the bottom end of a range there. But I totally expect Amazon to kind of trade in a wave. If you want to trade this one, you're looking at 2,900 and pops back up to closer to 3,000, maybe 3,200. Moving on to Netflix, this one also is kind of waved out, but the waves are more exaggerated. See, we have some action right here in this box between 512 and down to about 470, but Netflix wants to pop out. So it wouldn't surprise me. Here we are with Netflix. We had this big candle, came all the way back down below where we closed the day before. So Netflix, I think, is going to probably stay in this box. I think if you want to get it closer to the bottom, 470 would be a spot where if you want to go long, Netflix would be an interesting spot. I think we could pop back up into the 500s. There's an intermediate range that I kind of drew in here, where if you want to be really aggressive, I think that 480, 490 range, which is about $10 lower than we're at today, would be an interesting spot with Netflix. Google, sorry about leaving this one out last week, but we've kind of waved out with Google as well. It's actually, Google looks a little bit weaker than all the other stocks, in my opinion. I mean, we had a downtrend here. We broke out above it, but we're kind of trending back down. I think we're stuck in this box here between 1400 and 1480. I don't see a lot of like huge catalysts for Google. You know what I mean? I think the travel business, if that can come back online, that's like 10% of their business. If we can get airlines coming back and things like that, I think that will be a positive, but I still think we're 12, maybe 24 months away from really seeing a lot of positive catalysts with that. Moving on to Microsoft. Again, we're waving out with Microsoft here. We see we kind of had this blow off top, but we've hit kind of resistance here, resistance here. We almost hit it here. We came back down here, retested this $200 mark, came back up, didn't quite hit our head. You know, we missed it again. It seems like Microsoft gets up into that 214, 215 range and is getting rejected. I would look, if you want to buy this one, or if you want to swing trade it down here in this $200 level, it has broken through. It has peaked through a few different times here over the last few weeks. And so be careful here. You know, I'd put a stop maybe at the 195, because I think if it breaks 196, 195, I think you could come down here to the 190 range. So this is an interesting one. If it comes back down to 200, I'll evaluate the situation. I do want to get into Microsoft. If it's waving out here, it's an interesting buy. All these companies are reporting earnings very soon. As you can see, Apple is 26 days from now. We've got Amazon in about 20 days. Facebook's about 26 days. Microsoft is 19 days. All these companies are going to be reporting here very soon. Tesla's 19 days away. So we're going to be expecting lots and lots of earnings from all these companies here very soon. I think that could be the catalyst that gets us out of this wave one way or another. If these earnings are not meeting the street expectation or the guidance, these stocks will likely break down, but they could pop back up and start retesting the upper ends of this range if those earnings look really good. Finally, we're taking a look at Tesla. Tesla's in this wave formation. We're waving out here. I probably could move this trend line up just a little bit. We could move this up just a little bit. That puts us at about 340, 345 at the bottom end of the range. The upper end of the range looks rock solid. We actually had this trend line in last week. That is a 450. So I would actually anticipate Tesla trading in this range. It announced its quarterly deliveries and things like that. And so we have some visibility into their earnings, which again are in about 19 days. Again, I would expect this stock to wave around at the 340. Actually, this 50-day moving average has also, this might be the 200-day moving average actually with Tesla. This is actually providing a really nice level of support, which is today at 380 or so. And so that, to me, actually this box up here is where I would anticipate Tesla trading around. Obviously, this is a stock that makes lots of news and does lots of flashy things, so it could break up or down from this trend. But anywhere on this 200-day moving average, which is this light kind of Carolina blue, notice we bounced off it here. We kind of wicked through it, but bounced on it here. I would anticipate if this stock comes back down into this 380, 390 range, the stock would bounce back up and want to try to retest these highs at the 450. Now, if we can break 450 with Tesla and close above it, you see how many times we've come really close and sellers have stepped in every single time over the last few weeks. But if we can break up above that, I think you're off to the races back up to $500 with Tesla. So there we go. That was Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Google, Microsoft, and Tesla. Hopefully you guys had a great week. We'll have some more videos again soon. Again, earnings are on their way. We've got lots and lots of earnings coming our way over the next, really this month. And so obviously I'll have tons and tons of videos to cover all of these. We'll do almost every single company that we've done before and try to mix in as many as we possibly can. Hopefully you guys are doing well out there. Leave me a comment below. What do you think about the president getting the virus? Do you think that's going to impact markets? Maybe it will. We'll see what happens. Hopefully everybody's feeling well out there. Good luck with your investments.